Good day to you, Mr. Bermise.
And good day to you. Are we doing Australian accents?
No.
Good day.
No, that wasn't an Australian accent.
Because I only know how to say no and day. No. Today. I guess I could say no today. If I was in Australia and you were like, are we meeting tomorrow? I could say, no, today. That's it. That's all I got.
Very good. You will do very well with that one particular answer.
And I'm slowly getting better. I can say go. I guess I can do anything that's an O sound. Let's go. Lie. No, I can't. Well, another failure.
You have many other talents, Aki.
I just want to be able to do all the accents. Okay. That's what I want.
Okay.
It's my white whale.
I feel like it's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. No. It's nar. Nar. Now I'm overthinking it. Nar. Nar.
Yeah, nah.
Nar. Yeah, nar. Oh, God. I've embarrassed myself in the cold open.
Yep. Let's start the show.
Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Oh dear, and I'm back with my normal voice, ha ha ha, where I speak well. Welcome into Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Today's stardate is stardate 156504.2, and we're talking about, we're in the downhill stretch here, the final season of Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 6, entitled Whistlespeak. Whistlespeak. Great episode, lots of shenanigans. Let's run it down, please. Please.
It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? Tell me what just happened. Can you run it down for me?
Oh yeah, remember we got that sample last time. It was so hard to get. It turns out 2 days of testing, it's just distilled water. Couldn't be any more upsetting. And, Stamets and Tilly and Michael are working on it, but they are not able to figure out what exactly is going on. And then Michael gets called into, I forgot what he calls it, the non-room, the white space.
What is that again? It's like a sort of meeting room in...
the infinity room.
There's so much new tech in this. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, they really are throwing the tech at us. Yes, Kovich invites Michael to the Infinity Room, where it is revealed that the USS Lockerer is the one that's going to handle the search for Mal and Locke, who are in the wind, as the Bard once said. And Discovery's got to stick to figuring out the progenitor tech. The scientists who had hid the clue, Kovich has found out the identities of these scientists, and that could help in figuring out how each one hid. They use their own specialities to hide the clues. So he gives Michael a piece of paper, a real piece of paper with the names of the scientists, and so they're able to use their backgrounds to try and sort out which was which and why, or what their thinking might have been behind how they hid their clues. Meanwhile, Culber is speaking to a hollow of his abuela about mofongo and how he wondered what her recipe was, and she was like, I never made it. I always made it terribly, and then when you went and took a nap, I replicated it, and you guys loved it. But it is apparently a tester, a beta version of a grief alleviation therapeutic, where the hollows are able to be people who you, I guess, trusted or confided in your life, even though they are gone, and it allows people. So anyway, he's working on that with Dr. Pollard, and he decides he also will ask this hollow about his experience on Trill, the Jintara, and how it's still kind of bugging him, this experience, and how he feels about it, and trying to understand it. And since she was one who dealt with a lot of faith and mysticism, he thought maybe she could help. But she says, I brought you up to be a scientist and a doctor, and you must take a look at your take a look at the facts to maybe figure it out. And he goes, oh, that's a great idea, Abuelo. The play's the thing. Oh, now I'm on a Shakespeare tear. I got to stop. Stamets, Tilly, and Michael are going through the names and the remaining doctor clues. There's 2 clues left. There's Dr. Derek's, which I think is a very funny name because it sounds like multiple Derek's, and Dr. Creel. And Michael is betting on Dr. Creel, who was a no. Oh, God. I tried to say Denoblian. Oh, God.
Denobulin.
Thank you. Dr. Creel, who was a Denoblian.
No.
Denobulin.
Denobulin.
What did I say? Denolian? Oh,
Denoblian was what you said.
Denobulin. Dr. Phlox. Denobulin. Oh, no.
Denobulin,
right? Denobulin.
Yep.
Dr. Creel was a Denobulin. Yes. And as we know from Enterprise, they come from a planet that is plagued by storms, and he specialized in weather towers that created rain. At first, I thought we were going to go to Denobulus, which I think is the name of their planet. But Stamets goes, actually, he knows how Denobulin weather towers work. They use silver iodide to create rain. And so that actually is not super relevant at that point. But they look for planets along the Denobulin trade routes that are arid enough that in order to get water out of the air, they couldn't even use the silver iodide. They would have to draw water molecularly.
Good Lord, this is a tough episode for you.
The Denobulin is really threw me. I thought I was, now that I was using my own accent, but now you know what I remember? Hard words, gotta use my upper crusty British accent. So Denobulin will come out smooth every time, but then I'll sound like a maniac for the rest of it. So I'll just, anyway. So they find this planet Halem'no that was actually along the trade route and has some secret weather towers, and they were built by Dr. Creel. So they head to Halem'no. The tower is disguised to look like a mountain because the people of Halem'no are pre-warp and pre-industrial, and so Dr. Creel probably hid it in order to not violate the Prime Directive. So they're going to head down in disguise, Michael and Tilly. Meanwhile, Adira is up on the bridge. They've been asking for bridge time. They're going to get it, but unfortunately, or fortunately, they are working under the Khan of Rayner as Michael goes down to the planet. But Adira is going to be the person in the chair, as they say. There's unusual energy in a field around the tower, so they can't beam in, so they have to go down to the planet and they have to walk to it. You know, that's the Trek trope of sorts, is the what we want is right there. Can I beam in? No, we can drop you off several clicks south and you'll have to walk in disguise. Michael is doing her xenoanthropology thing before they beam down, listening to how these Halemnians speak. They do have like a vocal speech, but they also speak through whistle speak, so that they can be heard from far away. And the translator is able to figure out what they are speaking. We learn some other things about their culture that help them prepare to go undercover. As they're going down, Michael asks how things are going at the academy, and Tilly has a bit of a hesitation, but they have to head down before they can answer that. On Halem'no, speaking of cool tech, forget the Infinity Room, let's talk about these retinal tricorders.
Yes.
Pretty
very,
sweet.
very cool. I think what
very Geordie, right?
What are we calling them?
I think they call them. Oh, do you have
retinal tricorders? I think. Is that what we called them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I just wrote down retinal tricorders.
And we also had subcutaneous comms.
Oh my!
But not the first time we've seen subcutaneous comms. See, I can't do it. Subcutaneous comms. But it was the
Try
first time.
Try doing it in a British accent, Steve.
Yeah, it was the first time we'd seen retinal tricorders, though.
It was pretty sweet. Retinal tricorders. I love subcutaneous comms. I worked so hard on subcutaneous, I forgot the second word. Anyway, they head down to the planet. Meanwhile, Book approaches Culber on the ship and is like, we need to do stuff. Put me in contact with the people on the locker. As soon as they find Malalock, I want to be contacted so that I can help them, bring them in and help them with their whatever they're going through. And Culber's like, hey man, take a step back, recharge, stop fretting. Meanwhile, Culber has to then go visit Paul and wants to do a full neural scan on himself in order to figure out what's going on with these Jantara after effects. Stamets is a bit worried, but he agrees to do it the following morning on the planet Halem'no. Michael and Tilly run into a group of these Halemnites who refer to each other as compeers. They meet an elder who is coughing due to dust in the dry lands, and this group is on their way on pilgrimage to the temple, to the great tower, to exactly where Michael and Tilly are trying to go. So they go in with them. They ask about, can you go into the temple? And only the most devout, they are told, are able to go into the temple. They pretend to be people from the far, far east, and they meet Rava, who is the person who's been whistling to beckon the group to the tower for succor. As they arrive, the elder who had been coughing because of their time in the drylands begins to have a real unable to breathe, and so they rush this elder to the healing grove. Lungs are full of dust. Michael and Tilly are like, we could fix this in a heartbeat, but they can't break the prime directive. Finally, the priest/doctor arrives, and they form a tight circle around the coughing elder. Michael's patting her on the back. They have ringing bowls. I don't know what you call it. Singing bowls? What are those called on Earth?
Do I look woo to you?
Okay, fine. I'm going to call them singing bowls. They got their singing bowls out. And
Is it like a singing bowl or something?
Yes. Okay, well, look at you. You know
Knowledgeable.
more than you know.
Woo-woo.
Fine. I'll be the woo-woo one. The ringing creates sonic waves, which causes the dust to come clear, but it also causes Michael to pass out. It is called the sound cure. We learn that this priest is the father of Rava, the person we met initially. They also came from far away when Rava's mother died. When they ask about getting into the temple, the priest is like, oh, only the most devout can get into the temple. You can't get into the temple. And that's where they got to go, because that's where the weather stuff is, and that's where maybe the clue is. But Rava reveals they can get into the temple if they complete the journey of the Mother Compeer, a race that apparently makes the gods happy, and only the winners can enter the temple. Rava's father, whose name is Ovaz, I wrote it down later because Ovaz, yes. Rava's father is a bit like, oh, no, well, don't, kind of hemming and hawing in a way that those of us who have watched Star Trek realize. Is there some kind of weird thing that happens at the end of this journey of the Mother Compeer that we should ask about? But no. Anyway, Michael makes a request, so the journey will happen. Rava's father believes they're too young to go on the journey, but because he promised their mother that he would protect them, but he is unable to dissuade Rava from going on the journey of the Mother Compeer. Rava reminds Tilly of a student of hers at the academy. There's a brief contact with Disco. Michael and Tilly have a brief contact through the subcutaneous comms with Disco. They see that there have been other towers around the planet. There are 4 other towers, so there's 5 in total. The other 4 have failed, and that's why this is the only place of sort of like relative lushness. And the same thing is happening to this tower, which is called the High Summit. And apparently there's an auxiliary control panel somewhere near the High Summit that if one of them were able to go to, they could possibly fix it for the time being. But these towers are 800 years old, and so they're failing. And if they don't fix it, then the tower will eventually fail no matter what, and everyone there will die. And so one mission becomes 2, as Michael says. Meanwhile, the neural scan back on Discovery comes back clean. Culber was hoping to find an answer for what he's feeling. When Stamets says, do you feel bad? He's like, actually, it's the opposite. I feel good. I feel more attuned. I feel attuned to something greater. But I don't have a scientific reason for it. And Stamets uncharacteristically says, hey, well, if that's the case, then enjoy it. Enjoy the feeling, even if he doesn't understand. On the planet, Michael approaches the Elder. We get another classic hint that there's something not quite right about this journey of the Mother Compeer, because the Elder's like, oh, thanks for healing me. You don't have to go into that temple to be close to the gods. You just do good things for people and everything's all right. And Michael's like, it's all right. And then the Elder's like, I had a good friend who ran that race. She won, and I often wonder what it would be like if we had gotten old together. And Michael's like, all right, see you later. Another clue that maybe, I don't know, like a monster eats you at the end. That's what I was thinking. I was like, you finished the race, and then we use your life's blood to fuel the, something crazy like that. The high priest Ovaz makes his speech, and we realize that part of the this is very funny. They're all like, great, we'll just run up this mountain, no problem. We have Starfleet training. But they eat this like weird substance that makes them all super duper duper thirsty. And then they realize that there's these bowls of water and it's all about temptation and you have to run while you're exhausted and thirsty. And some people immediately give up after a few seconds of feeling as thirsty as they are. They get disqualified and the race begins. Michael's feeling rough. Tilly's kind of powering through. We're seeing tons of people bail on this run. Michael sees some moss that has a mutation in its color, and that could be caused by radiation, which means that moss could be leading to the panel somewhere, which means one of them has to go off after the panel and one of them has to continue the race to get inside of the temple. So Tilly continues the race and Michael goes after the panel. And Michael drinks some water. Relief. Tilly and Rava are running. Tilly almost gives up, but Rava says, hey, we're the last two left. I'm going to give you some competition. Let's go. We can make it to the end of this race. Michael uses her, I already forgot what it's called, eyeball tricorder. Retinal tricorder. And finds the panel for the auxiliary power in the rock and speaks to Adira on disco, and Adira has to help her through fixing it remotely. Tilly and Rava make it almost to the end, and they're like it's like a marathon kind of deal. They're like getting to those last like 50 steps, and they're stopped by Ovas, who says, you have almost completed the trip, but the story of the Mother Compeer is that she ran up to the top of this mountain to beg the gods for rain, and she was sorely tempted along the way to get water for herself, but instead she brought the water back down to her children. And so they have to do this last part of the race while still under the effects of whatever they ate that makes them super duper thirsty, while holding a bowl of water before their faces. Just the last 10 or 15 steps. They do this. Rava falls, unable to keep their water in the bowl, and they get an immediate DQ. But Tilly, being Tilly, is like, I thought you were going to give me some competition. Pours half of her water into Rava's bowl, and they finish the race together. Hooray! Surely that was all that was strange and unpleasant about this race of the Mother Compeer. They are headed to the temple, and surely the next clue. No problem. End of show. But no. Back on Discovery, Adira wants to tap out of helping. Michael is feeling the pressure and maybe a little bit of trepidation from having been the person who brought the time bug aboard Disco. Rayner says, stop second guessing yourself. You're here because you belong here. Tough love, tough love, tough love. And then Michael's like, Adira, help me. And Adira's like, all right, cool. And they manage to get the power back online, which means the temple will work, which is great because they need to turn the temple on for the water. Tilly is in the temple, is not able to see any clues. Rava's father, Ovas, is super sad. Why? Because we find out it's a sacrifice. You won the journey. You did all this work. Now you get locked in this temple and you die. But it brings water to the people. The temple shuts. The walls come down. Something scrambles the signal, so now they can't beam in or out. The walls, it turns out, are solid tritanium, which Tilly is able to see through her retinal tricorder. It's a vacuum chamber, which means the air is sucked in, sucked up, and sucked out, and the people inside will die. Tilly is sad, but Rava, basically because Tilly feels that, by instigating this whole race, that's how they're bringing Rava to their death. But Michael's trying to beam in. Michael doesn't care about violating the Prime Directive. Classic captain shit. We got to break the Prime Directive to save everything. Rava shows Tilly some of the ancient Halemnians numbers that are on the, I forget what they call the Serenity Wall or whatever, where you pray while you die. And Tilly's like, I've seen one of these figures before. And then Rava has a crisis of faith, realizing that they don't want to die, and Tilly has to comfort them. Meanwhile, Ovas is outside in the chamber that is not vacuumed, and he's weeping, and he's talking to the spirit, in his mind, praying to the spirit of his deceased wife, and sad that he wasn't able to keep Rava alive. Michael beams in, screw the Prime Directive. Ovas thinks it's a vision. Michael tells him it's not a vision, it's just me. What you're standing in is a machine. Ovas is unconvinced. Tilly is talking with Rava, because Michael's like, I need something to work on them out here. Rava shares a tune that their mother used to sing to them to help them sleep. Doesn't remember the words, but doesn't remember the melody. Michael hears the melody through the subcutaneous comms, is able to hum that melody to Ovaz to create an emotional reaction in him. He says, are you a god? Michael's like, no, but you need to open this chamber. She manages to convince Ovaz to open the chamber, but Rava has already passed out and Tilly is on death's door. Just as the chamber opens up, the disco team is able to beam in. They're able to save Rava. Michael shows Ovaz a hollow of the planet. Culber does bring Rava back around. Michael explains about the Denoblians and how they help the Halemnians, and explains that the tech is failing, but that they can show them how to fix it. And Ovaz wonders, well, does this mean that there's no gods? We've been doing this for all this time. And Michael's like, hey, I don't know about gods. All I know is that we also exist. And these are my shorthand. Michael references when he asks, like, what do we do about our religion? The elder who said, these sacrifices, going to the temple is not necessary. The power, the faith of our people is demonstrated by our commitment to one another. Michael and Tilly have a little bit of, I almost lost you there. That's okay. And Tilly's like, you're going to be extra glad that you saved me, because she shows Michael the symbol for number 5, which is the symbol on the side of the vial that had the distilled water in it, which means the clue is in Tower 5. So the disco knows where to get the clue. Rava wakes. Ovaz and Rava have a wonderful reunion. Thunder rumbles, rain falls. Blow wind and crack your cheeks, you cataracts and hurricanes. One more Shakespeare quote just occurred to me. Book has been unwinding by playing Atari level video games on his ship, which seems silly to me. Culber arrives with some food. It's Mofongo, obviously freshly replicated. Culber explains to Book that he's been having this spiritual awakening since Shintara, and Book's like, good, follow that. And Culber's like, but what about the fact that my partner can't understand anything spiritual? And Book is like, hey, sometimes some things are for yourself. And then it's revealed that, Book, yeah, it was like that when I was, oh, sorry. Can I get the music, please?
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Culber. When Michael and I were together in season 3 and most of season 4, man, things were really great. And we understood that sometimes being alone is part of being together. And I think you should take that advice for your love life. Yeah.
Wow, that was pretty good. With the levels and everything. Good stuff. Yes, so that's what basically Book says. And so we realize that, maybe there's still a little something between Michael and Book. I mean, obviously, Michael kissed Book in the past a few episodes ago, and Book is obviously pining for Michael. And perhaps wedding bells will ring at the end of season 5. Anyway, they find the next clue, the next piece. It has a metal thing with it that has a betazoid message on it. As Tilly and Michael wonder what the lesson was, Tilly realizes, it's the massive responsibility of this technology over 800 years. And maybe that was a warning from Dr. Creel that when they find this progenitor tech, they must be careful and thoughtful of what it will mean for future generations. And just as they have that quiet revelation, they are informed that the USS Lockerer has found Mal and Locke, and Disco jumps away. Here endeth episode 6 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery. Let's chat about that.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that.
Yes, let's do.
What a delightful episode. Very episodic in nature.
It was, yeah. I love it was good. It was a classic Trek romp. Away team, undercover, find this thing, run a race, fix a problem.
Primitive culture.
It had primitive culture, can't reveal the Prime Directive, but then have to break the Prime Directive,
Anytime the Prime Directive is brought up, it's going to be broken.
Yeah, anytime someone's like, and remember.
Don't break the Prime Directive.
Whatever we do, we can't break the Prime Directive. Someone's going to get trapped at a tower or something, and someone's going to have to reveal that they're a future generation. Yeah, I really enjoyed, classic sort of culture that, and it allows Michael to stretch the sort of sometimes forgotten xenoanthropologist in her. And it was cool to mention the Denoblians once again.
Nope. Nope.
Did I say it wrong? I said Blian, didn't I? The Denobulans.
Yes.
Once again.
The Denobulans.
Nobulan. The Denoblian. Oh,
Give up while you're ahead.
I will. Anyway, I had fond thoughts of Dr. Phlox and his smile.
I quite enjoyed the race and the sort of the change between Tilly and Michael from when, season 1 where, Michael was training Tilly. And she was, and Tilly is saying in this episode, a body in motion remains in motion or something like that, which was what Michael would be like, come on, Tilly, let's go. A body in motion stays in motion. And Michael's like, I just need a break.
Oh, man, that was a great reversal. I forgot. As they were doing it, I was like, this is reminding me of something, but I forgot that they were, when Tilly was doing the like, officer training stuff. Oh, that was so sweet. And the relationship between Tilly and Ravo was really sweet. I feel like it's pointing to some sort of awakening in Tilly that maybe was not fully revealed in this episode.
Something about her teaching.
Something about her teaching and wondering how to interact with young people in this sort of chaotic period. Even though it's peaceful, it's like post-burn and all this stuff. And she was mentioning that to Michael, that like she doesn't know whether to tell her student, like, go ahead and make some money doing cargo stuff or stay in the Starfleet or whatever.
I feel like that with Gen Z. I don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah, you got to be like on fleek, no cap, it's mid. Obviously, I don't know how to talk to them either. But yes, Tilly, I think I really loved their sort of like stick-togetherness and sharing of water. And I thought you were going to give me some competition, kid, that kind of thing. And
what about Rayner? Because I feel like he's now changed. And Mr. Mentor, Commander Rayner with Adira.
Yeah, tough love, Rayner. I love it. I think it's a nice counterbalance to Michael. It's like the version of Michael that has maybe slightly less emotional intelligence, but is able to at least communicate language. He's like, the reason you're on this bridge is because I have faith in you. I wouldn't have brought you up here if I didn't think you could do it, so you can do it, kind of stuff, which is, maybe good. At least he's not biting people's heads off for coming up with ideas.
I almost wondered if it was just a bit too easy. If someone gives me a bit of feedback, it takes me a while to implement it.
Hey man, Rayner's a captain. He's seen some stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's doing his best. We had to show that he's grown, and this is how we did it.
Agreed.
That he got some feedback, and one clue remains.
And yet 4 episodes remain.
Well, we still got to go find the progenitor tech. Obviously, the next episode seems like it's going to be dealing with Mal and Locke. So we're off the hunt now to go get Mal and Locke. What'll happen with them? Who knows? Will that be resolved? Will they try to steal the 3 pieces? And yada. Breen. So exciting times as we come into, I can't believe we just said how few episodes are left. It's really making me sad. But hello, everybody. Thank you very much. And once again, we go directly to the Easter egg desk with Stevie. Stevie, how are you feeling today?
Well, hi there, Rocky. I'm feeling very, very, very good. I have my radio cold voice going on. It's very deep. It's very, very...
So sonorous.
Commanding.
Yes.
But we have lots of Easter eggs, as you can imagine. There was a lot of callbacks in this episode, which was super fun. The weather towers that we had, there was a strong suggestion that the weather on Earth and other Federation planets is controlled by low-key terraforming technology in at least the time of the voyage home. And in Whistlespeak, Burnham and Tilly have to find a weather tower that's malfunctioning. And this particular mission hasn't happened before, but it was really reminiscent of Trek episodes from days gone by. We had going undercover with an indigenous culture, as we mentioned. Plenty of examples of those. In the original series, we had Passion of Force, Return of the Archons, A Private Little War, and the Paradise Syndrome as well, where the crew has to infiltrate planets and pass themselves off as natives. And
Oh my God.
also in the Next Generation episode, Who Watches the Watchers? And of course, at the beginning of the feature film Insurrection. And if you remember also in Strange New Worlds, Pike, Spock, and La'an all went undercover similarly in the series premiere of that show entitled Strange New Worlds.
That's right.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, the very first glimpse that we ever get of Michael Burnham in the Vulcan Hello, she and Captain Georgiou were trying to save a pre-warp civilization from a drought without being detected.
Hello.
So
Man,
nice little callback.
you're really finding the connections, the gems from season 1 to season 5 today. Okay.
Love the callbacks. As we mentioned, we had the subcutaneous comms. They had actually been used before by Kirk and Spock in the episode Patterns of Force, which we mentioned. So again, part of this throwback to indigenous cultures and subterfuge. We had denobulins, as you mentioned. For our favorite Dr. Phlox gets a little shout out, if you will. And not a shout out, but certainly a little.
He's the most prominent denobulin.
That we know, yes. And we've seen We've seen denobulins.
Sorry, it's catching. Yeah.
On Lower Decks and Prodigy and briefly in Strange New World Season 2. But despite being mentioned, we actually don't see a denobulin in this episode or throughout Discovery so far.
I was very sad about that.
As you mentioned, we get a callback to remembering that Michael Burnham was a xenoanthropologist, which I think is quite fun because she's actually perfect for away missions of this nature because of her background, unlike, shall we say, several other Starfleet captains who would frequently go on missions like this without relevant experience whatsoever.
Yeah, or commanders.
Indeed.
Who would go down there and just start having sex with everyone.
Very true. But if you remember the chase, and it was Captain Picard who went off in search, and he's got this, deep archaeological background.
Yeah.
So he's got somewhat of a real tie to this in a way that Michael Burnham has a real tie to this.
Yes. I'm just thinking of Riker getting some basic facial surgery or whatever, and then going down and being like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah."
So we also had a throwback to Paradise Syndrome. So overall, the Whistlespeak story in this episode feels like a very modern update of quite a tricky TOS episode called Paradise Syndrome, where Kirk lost his memory and became part of a tribe of Native Americans who lived on a non-Earth planet, which wouldn't really fly these days.
Yeah, it was the 60s.
But it was the 60s.
Yeah, they were trying to do something.
They were. They did a lot of things. You can't always get it right. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the sci-fi premise was really interesting here, even if the politics were a bit weird. And so a device that was placed on a planet by an advanced alien race designed to protect the people of that planet malfunctions and gains religious significance. So this is pretty much exactly what happened. So another really cool callback. Interestingly, this connection goes even deeper when you realize that the preservers mentioned in that episode were the first indication that an advanced humanoid species seeded several planets with humanoid life forms. So perhaps without the Paradise Syndrome of the original series, we wouldn't have had the chase in The Next Generation, and we wouldn't have this entire storyline in Discovery.
To quote Tilly, it's a massive responsibility, technology.
It certainly is. Well, I'll keep that. On that bombshell, I hand it back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Stevie. And we go immediately now to quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
Well, there's a lot of action, so not a ton of quotable moments in this episode. For me, I did love when Culber visits Paul Stamets and is like, "Hey, partner, you want to come do a neural scan with me? We haven't worked together in a long time." And Stamets is like, "Nothing as romantic as a neural scan." Also, I don't want to steal any of yours, but that moment where Tilly and Michael's like, "I gotta go do this thing," and I get to drink water, and Tilly's like, "Fine, I'll finish the race," and says, Go chase your moss. I'm the queen of endurance. A body in motion remains in motion," and runs on. I thought it was really sweet.
I don't have there are two moments that I would pick out. One wasn't a particular quote, but it was when Tilly's figuring out what's going on, and there's like this sort of look that she has. And we couldn't really quote it as such, but it was just such a brilliant sort of moment of like, oh shit.
Doesn't she say like through her teeth, like, "Sacrifice"?
Yes,
or
that
something
was it.
like that? It's so good.
Loved it.
Yeah. I think Tilly a few times in this episode was like, "But what's going on here?" Like talking through her closed mouth.
Reminded me of that episode when they were in, what was that? The dodgy marketplace.
So many dodgy of Discovery.
Yeah. Do you remember it's got a really funny name.
The Klingon dodgy marketplace? No, that's
something City Limits. No.
City Limits?
Yeah. Do you remember we were like every time we talked about the episode we went,
"Oh my god.
Bush City Limits."
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
You know what I mean?
I remember that joke between us, but I can't remember the name of the thing.
Sky Dunstan. Anyway, when they were sort of undercover and Tilly got a bit high.
Oh yes. Was that season 2?
I think so.
Is that before the jump into the future? I think so.
The other Tilly moment I had from this episode was when she's helping Rava Rava's helping her. And she's like, "You're a little shit, you know that."
Oh yeah, that was great. That was so good.
It's not like a quotable Star Trek moment forever, but like in that moment, it was just really good.
Right. I think Rava responds with something like, I can't hear you, I'm too far ahead, or something like that, which really, quickly creates their rapport en française. I liked Michael's response when Ovaz says, "Are you a god?" And Michael says, "No, I'm just a person from really far away."
I might have a bit of news.
Oh, news?
News.
Hit me.
News from around the galaxy.
Well, we have Star Trek news. Kurtzman has appeared on the latest episode of The Ready Room with host Will Wheaton.
Oh.
And Will was asking, what is the future of the Star Trek universe? We have Strange New Worlds. We know that Lower Decks is finishing. We know that Starfleet Academy will continue where Discovery leaves off, a rebooted Starfleet Academy operating in the 32nd century. And we know that the Star Trek TV universe will be getting its first feature film with Section 31, following our breakout anti-hero, Empress Georgiou. Now, all of that said, what's going to happen? And Kurtzman gave an extensive answer to that question, letting fans know that there is plenty of Star Trek right now, which I kind of disagree with, because we're losing it. But he said that for any future installments of the franchise, there will be a very high bar to pass in terms of consideration. He said, I spend a lot of time for that first season of Discovery really meditating on this incredible universe that's been around for so long and how much more can be done with it, how many amazing stories there are to tell. I only want to make another Star Trek show if there's something to say. I don't want to do it just to do more. I think that would be a real huge disservice to Star Trek, a huge disservice to the fans. And I think fans would feel it instantaneously. They would know that it's not authentic. Because if there's one thing that Star Trek fans know, it's authenticity. And that being said, I just want to take up a bit of business news that overlaps with some Star Trek news.
Oh, do go.
Paramount Global is in talks for takeover at the moment. CEO Bob Bakish, not entirely sure, he stepped down amid disagreements because he was not a particular fan of a deal in discussion with Skydance. Paramount had entered into exclusive discussions with Skydance for the last 30 days, and they've now allowed that deal to lapse, just in terms of talks. And now private equity giant Apollo is having discussions with Sony about a collaborative bid for Paramount. So it is hard to say what's going to happen, but we do know that Paramount's streaming efforts to date remain unprofitable, which I think, unfortunately, will impact the Star Trek universe. So not terribly good news.
I have lots of thoughts about that, Paramount, but no one's listening to me.
Hopefully, there will be a great idea that passes Alex Kurtzman's bar, and we'll have more Star Trek in the future.
One can only hope.
Well, anyway, on that sad bombshell, it is back to you. Oh, no, wait. Is it?
Should we go to next time?
Wait, I have to say that's the end of the news. And that's all from the news.
Next time.
And now
on Set Phasers.
Oh, sorry, do it again.
No, the guy stepped on my thing. No.
It was you.
Yeah, I know. Let's go to next time.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Next time on Set Phasers, episode 7 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, entitled, wait for it, Erica. So I think we're going to get to deal with this whole Breen business. Maybe we get that resolved. So that's very exciting. If you've enjoyed today's episode as much as I've enjoyed mispronouncing things on it, then you can find all of our back episodes of Set Phasers wherever you get your podcasts. They're out there, baby. And we've talked about Discovery. We've talked about Strange New Worlds. We talked about Lower Decks. We talked about Picard. You can find it all online.
Yes, you can. And if you want to find us, we are on the YouTube at Set Phasers Podcast on the YouTube. Do check us out. We have lots of little clips. We have our news clips. We have our Easter egg clips. We have our full episodes in podcast form and in video form. We have it all, and it's all on YouTube.
It's all on YouTube. And also, if you like what you see and you want to support it, you can go to patreon.com/setphasers and become part of the party and have fun with us. And we got to do a viewing thing together. And our schedules are insane, but it will happen. So you still have some time, dear listener, to join so that you can come to the party.
Indeed. Well, that is all from me. I am Stevie Manns. Until next time.
And I know it's eccentric of me, but I do love the feel of paper. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Oh, crap. Computer.
What?
End program.
That's very good.
Thank you. I think Dr. Kovich will see some cassette tapes next time. Or
yeah, he's
maybe.
going to be like, have you ever checked out this?
Do you know what this
he's gonna
is?
like,
It's a cassette tape. I'm rather fond
do you
of
like the
them.
Eurythmics? Sweet dreams. Yeah, he's got like a little desk in that infinity room now. I think every time they go back, it'll be some other weird thing. A bust of Beethoven or something.